Welcome to DAX Machina, with your hosts, Naomi Finn, Steve Wildman Munrotis, and D.A. Roberts. Join us as we explore writing, books, authors, and all things horror. We will delve into the sightings, reports, encounters, and tales of monsters. We will also explore the writings of D.A. Roberts along with others in the horror genre. We will investigate the possibilities that monsters may not be safely locked away in the pages of books. They might just walk among us even now. Grab some popcorn and lock the doors. It's going to be a creepy journey. Welcome to DAX Machina.
Good evening, folks, and thank you for joining us tonight. We're going to have an awesome time tonight. Joining me is my usual partner in crime, Naomi Finn, and Kerry Arnold is joining us from the
Bigfoot Odyssey.
Yeah, I just completely drew a blank.
Easily forgettable.
I hate it when
We're
I do
actually
that.
so excited to have you, Kerry,
Oh,
because
yeah.
you're a superstar.
Oh, whatever. I'm glad to be
Well,
here.
I think you are. You have some pretty great.
Well, thanks.
Well, we are very, very proud to
documentaries
have
out
you here,
there.
sir.
I'm glad to be here.
darn it.
Absolutely.
Sorry,
Appreciate you
guys.
guys having me.
Well, for those of us and those in the audience that that don't know much about you, I'll give you a minute here to just go ahead and introduce yourself. Tell us a little bit about your documentaries, and we'll kind of jump in from there.
Well, I had an experience back in 07, and I carried it with me for a long time. It really had a really profound effect on me. I thought it was going to kill me in the moment. It was one of those. So very circumstantial ordeal. And I was good for a while, probably for about 7 or 8 years. I was okay. And then I started seeing from Crypto Reality, Mark and Melanie Zasky were posting these images of what I had seen, and I had never seen anybody else do that. I had seen the blob squatch and pareidolia pictures and all that, plenty of that with no context or anything, but they were out there getting it and showing what I had seen. And I guess it did something to me. I don't know. I just I guess I got excited about it, I suppose, but I started having panic attacks and nightmares, and I'd be driving down the road and just look into the woods and get that washed over feeling, things that I hadn't felt in a long time. So my wife, being who she is, says, well, you need to face this, essentially. So I contacted the people that were showing me the images. They invited me down. I researched with them for about 3 months and realized that just wasn't for me. I don't want to be around them. I have no desire to go look for them. I have nothing to prove to myself or anybody else. And then after that, she suggested that I just talk to other people that have had experiences. I was like, okay, well, if I'm going to do that, let's get a camera and we'll video it and see what happens from there. Well, that turned into, okay, we'll tell people's story, but if we're going to travel 6-8 hours to go tell someone's story on camera, we're not just telling some Bigfoot encounter. We want the whole Odyssey. That was why we called it Bigfoot Odyssey. We went Sasquatch Journey, we went through all the names and settled on Bigfoot Odyssey as people telling their journey dotted with notable experiences, which is Homer's definition of an Odyssey. So that's why we called it that. And that's what we did. We made 13 documentaries with people in 9 different states over a 3-year period. And then started doing the live show, having eyewitnesses on, because there was 6 to 8 weeks between the documentaries. And so we wanted to put something out in between. And so we started doing that and been doing that for almost 2 years now. And over 300 shows at this point. So we get eyewitnesses on. We have researchers come on and talk about their experiences. And we just made 168 hours, which was an idea I had years ago. It's like, why someone needs to try this. And no one was trying it. So I was like, well, we have the idea. I think we have the means, the opportunity. Let's give it a shot. And so we went down. We took 18 people to Florida and filmed for 168 hours straight, which is 1 week. We filmed for a week, recorded. Something was going at all times, a camera, a recorder for a week straight. And what's on there is the first 2 days. The first part of is just the first 2 days of what you see, which not a whole lot happened. But we were fortunate enough to make something out of it. So here we are.
You were actually doing some Daniela. Is that Daniela or Danielle?
Daniela's our producer. Yeah.
And she was on in the studio while you were down there and keeping us updated. And I was just couldn't get enough of that. I was setting my timer to make sure I could go watch that. I was fascinated by what you guys are doing down there. I couldn't wait for it to come out.
I was pretty excited about it too.
Yeah.
I think everybody was. And that was what worried me more than anything. I was like, man, this thing got pumped up so much. We better get something.
Well, I don't think it was about that. It was just about watching the techniques. And I've kept things to myself for so many years. I don't wander in the woods alone at all anymore, or even in the woods at all. But I would go out by myself and didn't know what I was doing. Didn't try a lot of things that I'm glad I didn't try, but considered some of them. Glad I decided against them. And so for me, it was just fun to watch how you guys are going about doing this. And it was such a learning thing for me. All of your documentaries have been really learning for me, but that really, that captured my imagination. And it wasn't about hoping you got something. Although I have to admit, I'm the girl who's gotten a heck of a lot of deer that I thought was Bigfoot. So I know how I can't think of his name felt.
Well, there ain't nothing louder in the woods than a squirrel when you're looking for a deer.
Yeah.
Right. Around you, especially.
Yeah. And it's funny how big and scary squirrels are when you're out there alone, you know.
They can be loud.
I'll tell you, one night I was wandering through the woods and I had my dog with me, and all of a sudden something cut loose screaming. And if I'd been there with another person, I'd have gone, that's a raccoon. But I was by myself, and that thing grew 8 feet and had 6-foot arms and 8-inch fangs before I was able to calm down enough to identify what it was. And my dog sat there and looked at me like I was crazy. So it's, when you're in the woods, it takes a minute to identify and to set your mind to that. But anyway, I know that your experience was pretty emotionally taxing on you, but did you want to talk in detail about it at all?
Yeah, if you want, I can kind of give a summary of what happened.
Yeah, I would. I've heard
it
it only once before. So
I had a lease in Collins, Mississippi, and I guess what got me out there was a lot of I'd gone through a lot of loss in '99. From February to November, I lost 9 people that were close to me, including both my parents, the 3 best friends I ever had. It was just one after the other. My boss, guy worked opposite me, grandmother. It was insane what was going on. And my best friend, there was 4 of us, and we all had the same tattoo. We'd already lost 2 of them. One drowned. We were 26 years old. One drowned. One in a car wreck in February and March. And then after my dad, my mom, grandmother, boss, friend, it was just through and up until November, I was it was Sam and I. We were the only 2 left. And he had dropped me off at a bar, and I was drinking really heavily at that time. And he left after a few minutes. I said, "Will you be back here to pick me up?" Well, because I'm going to shut it down. So 2 a.m. comes. He never shows up. Well, he was on his way to pick me up, and he met with a vehicle and got killed. So that kind of did it for me. That kind of pushed me over the edge. I had talked to a friend of mine that had said his father had some property. So that's what I did. I went and found him. I was like, hook me up with your grandfather. Let's go see this place, because I was getting away from everybody. I mean, I'm obviously next was kind of the feeling here. So he does fix me up with his grandfather. They didn't want anything from me. No one ever went out there. It was 240 acres, and no one ever went out there. They didn't hunt. These were urbanites in a rural setting, essentially. So he said, make it your own. So I did. So I stayed out there continuously, probably 300 plus days a year. When I wasn't working, I was there. Even I hunted it, but when it wasn't deer season, I was still out there. So I was out there around these creatures that were out there, but I didn't know they were there. I was suspicious that there were people messing around out there. I would hear voices, kids playing down in the creek, so many things that had gone on in the 7-year period. Well, there's a place in the back, kind of a clear spot up on a hill, and I'd gone off down there deer hunting that season before the end of 06. Was up in a tree climber. It got dark, and turkeys got it to roost right beside me. Well, light bulb. Now I know where some turkeys are. I'll turkey hunt, because I hadn't never hunted past deer season. So I get all set up and I fix a spot, and then March comes. It's time to go turkey hunt. So it was March the 10th of 07. It was on the weekend. And I get out there, I get camoed up, I get in my spot. I had bushes cut and set out. If you look at this place like a football field, where I was sitting was in the northwest end zone corner, where I could see all the way out to the southeast end zone corner. Down to my left was the north sideline. Straight across from me, the south sideline. And the south sideline dropped straight off about 7 feet down into a creek bed. But it was two-tiered. It dropped down 7 feet, and it would go 30 or 40 feet, and then it kind of graded on down into the creek, and that just wrapped all the way around the southeast, the southeast corner of the end zone and around to the east. So I get in there, and I'm calling turkeys, and a couple hours didn't see anything for a while. I'm not really taking it that seriously, but I'm hidden. I'm camoed out. I've got black under my eyes. I got the Recondo hat, mesh net on my face. You got to hide from turkeys. Well, I start to get some action. I'm hearing turkeys gobble back at me, so I'm getting kind of excited. Well, about the time I can see turkeys, when I see them, they're coming all through the woods, all up this wide game trail to my left, just turkeys everywhere. So I'm looking, trying to pick out the gobbler, and I'm chirping my mouth and a box call in my hand, and I got a little locator. Well, all of a sudden, the turkeys just take off to the north, all of them. And I could see it was about 30 when they took off. So I was upset. I'm sitting here wondering what the heck's going on. There's no way they saw me. This is what I'm thinking in my head. Angry, aggravated, but about the time I couldn't hear them anymore, I could hear straight out across from me what sounded like walking through the leaves. Slow, like 2 legs. Okay, somebody is down here, because they had a direct line of sight through the creek bed to whoever that is. They scared my turkeys off. So I stood up. I looked, and I pulled the mesh net down over my face, and I'm looking out like I couldn't see anything. So I took a couple steps to my left. There was a big loblolly pine tree right 10 feet away. I get in front of that, and I can see it's a guy. It's a black guy, which made perfect sense. The property belongs to a black family. It's one of them, because everyone that lived on the road up there, it was Garway McGee. It was he had all his sons, daughters, nieces, nephews. They all lived on the road there, and the property was behind all their houses. It's one of them. Obviously, somebody turkey hunts back here that I didn't know about, but still, we should be communicating. These are kind of the things that are going through. So I'm looking at this guy. I can see just about from the top of his shoulders up, and he's looking at me 150 feet away, 40 yards, 50 yards or so. He'd snap his head and look at me, and then he'd kind of look back where he was going, and he would look at me again. So I waved at him. It's like, right here. Don't shoot me. I won't shoot you. Never realizing how he knew where I was. To me, this guy's strictly amateur, has no idea what he's doing. He's walking through the thick stuff out there first. Well, I lost him. I couldn't see him anymore, but I could kind of still hear him. And he had gone away from me around that point, and the next time I saw him, he's coming up toward me, kind of quarter to me. And I can see looks like he's wearing camouflage, like a vest. Well, now I'm upset because he's out here hunting, and no one told me this is what was going on. I've had this place for 7 years. There was this sense of ownership, in my mind. Of course, I was extremely arrogant and full of myself when it came to anything out there. You couldn't have told me anything at all. So I'm put my back against this tree, and I grab my shotgun. I put my hand up over the butt like this, like a boat paddle, and I'm holding it down on my side. I'm non-aggressive, not going to shoot at you because he's obviously coming toward me. And I'm just going to give it to him. What are you doing? You've completely destroyed, ruined the hunt, everything. Well, there's just about to the edge where I'd stepped off was 72 feet. It was 24 steps when I stepped off for my shot. About 8 feet down from there was 2 pine trees, 10-inch pine trees, 25 feet tall, half grown. And they're probably about 3 or 4 feet apart. Well, they're directly in that corner. And because there's a little gap right there, everything else is so thick. On this side, you couldn't see much of anything else because I can just partially see him. And he probably gets about 10 feet from those trees, and he reaches his arm out. And when he reached his arm out, I could see this hair hanging down. I can see this dark gray skin. He hardly had any hair on the inside of his arm. I could see this dark gray. Face was really black, like patent leather shoe black. And it crossed my mind for a second. This guy kind of looks like a Sasquatch. I had seen Patterson Gimlin. I'm not even sure I believe they existed. I don't remember, but they weren't around here. This is not in South Mississippi. Forget about it. That's a problem for the Pacific Northwest, if it's even real. Wouldn't surprise me if it's all a bunch of hooey. So, and I think that was the real moment of transition, that there was a waffling back and forth, because there's such a level of disbelief. There's no way you could be looking at a Sasquatch. You've been in these woods. You've been in the woods for 29 years at that point. I had hunted since I was 5 years old. I was 34 when this happened. And so there's a real disconnect with reality, as it were. But I'm still looking at this thing, and he grabs this tree, pulls himself right up to it, puts his tree in his chest, and stands up and squares up. And when he stood up, he looked a lot bigger than he did when he was I thought this was like a fat 400-pound black dude lumbering, like he's lost and tired. And that's what screamed amateur to me. And what I could see then that I thought was camouflage looked like mud, like dry mud all over one side. It wasn't on his arms. Well, I thought it was some kind of vest or something that he was wearing over coveralls or whatever, And I think that was the real moment when I knew that this was not a person. But even then, there were still moments where I was like, this has to be a guy. How is he doing this? Someone's messing with me. All this in just a few seconds. Well, he opened his mouth and started making the most unnerving sound I'd ever heard in my life. Like he was griping at me. He's 80 feet away, as far as you would throw a football with someone. And I can see him pretty clear. I can't see below his waist very much, but I can see most of his body. He's standing in a little gap right there by this tree, holding on, griping at me. Well, I'm totally mortified and petrified, because this is what's been out here. This is kind of the things that kind of came back to me. This is what's been going on. All this stuff that I've been hearing that I've been thinking was somebody else. They've been here. So that was kind of a stark reality when that hit. But the noise he was making scared me. Because he was mad. He was angry with me. And I think there's a real difference in just seeing one of these creatures and then having one of them aggressive toward you and how it affects you. I was 800 yards from my four-wheeler, half a mile. So I'm back in there. So I'm still like this. He's grunting and griping. And I'm against this tree, and it's got low limbs. So I said, I want to get my hand down on the grip. I guess I got the nerve. I wanted to get my hand down just in case he came at me, because that's the way he was acting. I got a Benelli 3.5-inch 12-gauge automatic with high brass number 4, a 30-inch barrel. It's a goose gun, essentially. I think I could have hurt him pretty bad, probably even killed him, but he was going to have to get closer. So I wanted to get my hand down that grip, and as soon as I moved my hand, he didn't like it. He rocked back and forth 2 or 3 times and lunged toward me with a huff or a blow or whatever it was. It was, like, no, you're not putting your hand on that. And I think about the time I was getting my hand on it is when it hit me. I felt it, and it startled me. And I think that was enough for me to move. And I took about 4 or 5 quick steps to my right. I didn't go closer, but I got out into that clearing because I had thick stuff behind me. And I wanted to get where I felt like I was in the open. Well, when I did that, I could really see him good. And now I'm out from under these limbs, and I can see and hear this tree he's holding on to, and it's whipping. I mean, from that distance, it was cutting the wind. That's what I remember more than anything, was hearing that and then seeing that tree and what he was doing to it. And he wasn't shaking it. It was incidental. He's rocking back and forth and still holding on to it. I mean, he could have pulled this thing out of the ground and thrown it at me. And he wasn't overly huge. He was big, very wide shoulders, and straight up and down, barrel shaped, as wide at his hips as it was at the shoulders. And probably, I'm 6'4", and we were looking eye to eye. But he's standing down that grade, so he's probably at least a 7-footer, probably. A huge dude, nonetheless. So I'm standing there. I got my gun down, and I'm ready. Safety's off. He's coming, and I'm thinking if he comes, I got 3. It's an automatic. I can shoot 3 times really quick and reload while I'm running. Where am I going to shoot him? Am I going to shoot him in the legs? All the whole time, thinking, okay, what if this is a person? This has to be a dude. No, there's just no way. Because that's still, even after everything I had seen, that doubt still crept in that this has got to be somebody. There's no way this is one of these things. And then, of course, you hear the sound and see the power, and you realize, yes, this is what people have been seeing and reporting in the woods for years. This is it. So he stops rocking. He rolled his lips back, showed all of his teeth, had a gap in his 2 front teeth, and stuck his tongue straight out, just like at a point, not at me, just out, like he was tasting the air or whatever. And that kind of creeped me out a little bit and scared me. I'm still wondering how I'm going to get to my 4-wheeler, because the way he's acting, if I do make it, I'm going to be fighting him the whole way. So once he did that, he growled a few more times. Then he stomped. He took his right hand off the tree. He turned his body to the right, and he didn't turn his head like this to look at me. It's like his head was down, and he cocked it like this, like he was looking at me upside down. Never took his eyes off me, but walked 3 or 4 steps until I couldn't see him anymore, still looking at me that way. And I'm standing there, and something kept telling me I need to look to my left. So when I lost him, but he still wasn't far away, because I could still very intently hear him walking through the brush. I could see a bush move or whatever, but I was looking to my left because I felt like something's, could be right here. I was close to some thick stuff. Well, I think he must have gotten on down into that creek bottom, which wasn't far, probably from where he was another 70 or 80 feet. And that's when I heard what I believe is him yelling. And it wasn't Finding Bigfoot. Whoa, it wasn't anything like that. It was abrupt and quick, and it cracked at the end like a whip. Like, wow. Like it was a buildup. But it just abruptly stopped at the end. And it was so loud, there was not another sound in the woods. And I vividly remember how tall the grass was. There's a little bit of wind, not a sound. But I still stood there. I was frozen, I suppose. So after I think a couple of minutes, I didn't hear anything else. I can feel myself breathing. I'm taking these long, deep breaths like I just run a mile. And I'm starting to feel like heat. I can see heat on the periphery, like tunnel vision. I think I'm fixing to pass out. So I turned around real quick. I didn't want to pass out for sure, but I still didn't want to turn my back on the direction he went. But I did it anyway. And I went over and I grabbed my backpack. I put that on my shoulder, and I probably went 20 feet and stopped. And I thought, I'm going to take the plug out and put 2 more in. But I didn't want to get caught in that position. So I took 3 shells out of my pocket. I put them in my hand, and that's how I walked out. I don't remember a lot of the walk out, aside from praying. A lot of foxhole praying, Lord, please get me out of here. That kind of stuff. I'll promise you I'll be a nicer person. I'll never kill another animal. Those promises I've tried to keep for sure. But a lot of things. And the way the road went, it curved, it went up a hill. Then there was probably 200 feet, and there was my 4-wheeler. And I always drove into the leash road, and depending on what I was doing, where I was hunting, I would either drive about halfway in this logging road, or I would pull right in the front and pull up against this thicket. Well, I get to the top of this hill, and it's starting to open up. I can see a house. I can see my 4-wheeler sitting right there. And I stopped, and for whatever stupid reason, I turned around just to look. And as soon as I got turned around, I heard probably 60 or 70 yards, a good distance back down the hill, a tree break. Very loud, like a rifle shot, but it was green, whatever it was. It was either a limb or a tree, but it was that extremely loud. That's when I ran. I ran to my 4-wheeler, and I think that's the most terrifying moment I had, was getting on my 4-wheeler and not being able to go forward. I had to back up toward this thing because I'm thinking he's right behind me. He's going to snatch me off the back. I've made it this far. And all these things ultimately messed with me for a long time. But I got out, I got on the road, hauled butt to the house. I usually would load my 4-wheeler on my truck. I just drove the 4-wheeler up beside the house. It was probably still rolling when I got off of it. Went to my truck. I had an Avalanche, 05 Avalanche. Got in, put the shotgun down, reached in the back, grabbed my 7 mag, made sure it was loaded, shut the door, locked all the doors. And I sat there in front of the house watching the back tree line for a while. I don't know how long, 30 minutes, hour, I have no idea. It was a long time. So I couldn't drive. I was that shaken up and just reflecting back on the years of weird stuff that I'd never experienced anywhere else. As many places I'd ever hunted, I'd never gone through what was happening out here. It all seemed different from the beginning going out there. And a lot of the things that he had said to me, because he was a preacher, and I think they knew something, because I always heard knocking. I would hear knocking as soon as I pulled up. I'd get off, but what didn't register with me is that was just a couple knocks, and didn't sound that far away, but it's probably carrying through the woods. Somebody's always knocking and beating on something. But I heard that knocking at 2:00 in the morning, way off, 300 yards away, easily. Pow, rhythmic, hard. And then 500 yards way off somewhere else. Hear it again. But it was just be a few. And I rationalized these things away. And I think that's what upset me as much as anything, was feeling for a long time of how much I had put myself in a dangerous position just by explaining things away. Well, I didn't know anything about Sasquatch. I didn't know that you shouldn't shoot one. I believe that firmly now. But if I would have had my rifle that day, I'd have shot him. There's not a doubt in my mind.
Well, I got to tell you, Kerry, that is just about one of the most harrowing experiences I have ever heard. It just chills me to the bone to think about it.
Well,
The
when I
level
say
I'm
it
glad
was,
you didn't
The
have
level
your
of
rifle
detail
with
you recall. Woo.
well, when I say it was circumstantial, that's what I mean. I think it was just because I was there so much and because it was me. I think if anybody else would have done the same thing I had done that day, they would have done nothing. But I think they thought I knew they were there anyway, just from interactions we had. Because I
Yeah.
would yell. I'd hear people talking 50 feet behind me, thinking somebody's coming up the trail. And I'd yell, "Hey, don't come back here." And they would shut up. There was nobody
Wow.
coming back there. That was them. That was them. I can remember for several years going to one spot and I'd have a Primos can call. And I'd hit that call. I'd be 20 feet up a tree on the edge of a thicket where I could see everything clear out to my right and in front of me and coming straight toward me. And it was always a buck in my mind. There's a buck out here. I can't get him on camera. He's just beating me. But he would come crashing through the woods like a truck, breaking limbs. That's not a buck. Realistically, those were the things that upset me, is that if I would have been aware, I'd have keyed in a long time ago what was going on. But I was too arrogant. I was too full of myself. I knew there's no way. If anybody would have said, "Hey, that's Sasquatch out there," there's no way I would have believed it. I'd have laughed him out of the room and gone back out there and done my thing. Would have never thought twice about it. I was just that sure and full of myself. But I was angry for a long time. I was mad at God and decided that I didn't need God, and I would create my own values, and that's how wrong I was. There was extreme events that put me into those woods, and it was an extreme event that got me out.
Well, in your defense, it's not easy to be a believer unless you've seen one, unless
Not wrong.
and it's so much more acceptable to make excuses for that stuff, even if the excuse doesn't make sense in other ways. Because you walk out of the woods and say, "Well, you know what I heard today," and then you describe it, people are going to tell you no, and then they're going to make that excuse for you, and you should never beat yourself up over that,
Exactly.
because
Well, it's been long enough at this point, and I've learned a lot more now, but it had to happen to me that way. For me to
Yeah.
do what we're doing now, if I'd have just seen it, I would have been able to explain it away. But I had to see it
Yeah.
that way. It had to have been something that was so certain and 100% positive. But after that, I never went back in the woods again. I didn't go back in any woods for 10 years. I sold everything I had, all my hunting gear. I didn't tell a soul because I wouldn't have believed anybody if they told me that. I mean, who am I going to tell?
Yeah. And the way people react when you do tell them, it's never fun anyway.
Sure.
Very true.
So,
Wasn't going back through that, but I had a lot of post-traumatic stress from it.
and honestly, you'd have had more if you'd started telling people right away. Because the stress of being called a liar or a fool
Absolutely.
and all of the things that those who do speak out right away go through, it adds almost as much mental
Well, I still
agony
deluded.
to
I
you.
still deluded myself for a while after, because I had a Motorola Razor in my pocket. I was thinking,
Yeah.
man, why didn't I take pictures? I could have got some pictures. That's just not even remotely a thought. Survival, because I thought he wanted to kill me. And when you see and you get a sense of that power, just the voice sound like multiple sets of vocal cords. This
Yeah.
is no way a human being is making this sound. Even hearing that, seeing this power, it was still hard for me to be convinced that this is what it was in the moment. Once it was all over with, I knew. But in that moment, you're just expecting. I was kind of expecting, I think, for someone to say, "Okay, hey, don't shoot me. I'm just messing with you."
Yeah.
But if
But
I
it
would have
didn't
been
happen.
anywhere else when I first saw it, I don't think I would have thought what I thought. But because
Yeah.
I was on these people's property, as soon as I saw it, that's it's one of them. I wouldn't bring it up otherwise because it kind of sounds racist, I know. But if it wasn't relevant, I wouldn't mention it. But it is
Yeah.
relevant because if I'd have been anywhere else and seen, I probably would have known what it was much quicker. Because maybe
Yeah.
that's all. Maybe he thought that that was going to be enough for me to just see him and leave for whatever I was doing that was upsetting them. Hunting turkeys, hunting past deer season, which I had never done. I was doing a lot of things different. I burned that place off a couple weeks before then, just so the
Yeah.
turkeys would get used to coming in there and scratching up the seeds and dead bugs and all that. You know, that's just what you do. Maybe that did it. There was something that I had done, and this is the thing that bothers me to this day about people not knowing, not being aware of Sasquatch, is that we don't know what is going to set one off.
Yeah.
You just don't know. I was around them for this long. It took them this long to do it. But I think they wouldn't have done it otherwise. I think if it had been anybody else, they wouldn't have done it. I think it was because it was me. I'd been around them so much and interacted with them. Didn't know I was interacting with them, but I did. And that's what I think, essentially, is why it happened the way it did.
Well, and as a result, you've made some pretty amazing documentaries for us to watch.
Very
Never,
much so.
never planned any of it. That stuff just came along. Even when
Yeah.
we started, I didn't expect it to be like that. I had never edited a second film in my life ever. I
Yeah.
studied it for 6 months. From the first time we filmed the first one till we put it out was 6 months. That's how long it took me to figure it out. So it's not like
If you're using Adobe, I feel your pain.
I was using Final Cut Pro on
Oh.
an iMac.
Yeah, I've never used Final Cut, but I'm telling you, Adobe makes my head swim sometimes. The Adobe Premiere, I have moments with it, believe me, but any editing program, they tend to be a little bit smarter than me. Anyway,
Josh, thank you for the super chat. Yeah, he said, "Glad you made it out of there, Kerry." And Kerry, there I had a question from you for you from the audience.
Yeah.
Mark Napier says, "I wonder if hearing protection helps overcome infrasound."
You know, I've got my own theories. You know, infrasound is just a theory. We're not sure that that's what's going on. What makes more sense to me is EMF, just because of what we hear and what happens to a lot of people. You know, high levels of EMF. The Earth is electromagnetic. We have an electromagnetic barrier that goes around the Earth that protects us from the sun. So if you got to look at the poles, you would see these big electromagnetic loops. And who knows what these creatures can do with it. They're connected to the Earth. You know, there are eels out there that can produce 50,000 volts of electricity. So I don't put anything past anything.
don't do that.
But what gets me is the effects. Okay, infrasound will have an effect on you that can make you feel disoriented, but EMF does that too. It makes you sick. It'll make you feel like you're being watched. It will make you see lights, orbs, make you hear voices, mind speak. It will drain your batteries, which that happens to a lot of people.
A lot.
EMF does all these things. So once we tried it, we took an EMF detector into the woods, and we're getting spikes around these creatures of up to 300 milligauss. Now you can get 2 milligauss from your breaker box. And we were in the middle of the woods getting 200, 300, just instant, real quick. So
Wow.
that's kind of where I like to lean toward. I'm not saying all these other things aren't happening, but to me, maybe infrasound is happening. Other animals do it. Why not? Elephants do it. Tigers do it. But it's always accompanied by an audible tone. You know, you can't hear the infrasound. You know, whether something just does infrasound, who would know? But to me, these effects that people are experiencing, maybe both, maybe infrasound and EMF. I don't feel like I was getting hit with either. Personally, I think he just was upset with something I was doing and wanted to let me know it.
Yeah. Well,
You think it could have had something to do with the fact you said you'd been around there for years, but you had done things differently? Maybe they were used to your presence, and since you were doing things differently, they were not just upset by it, but they expected more out of you. That
Well,
kind
hey,
of thing.
look,
They were disappointed you changed your pattern.
I had the whole rafter of turkeys coming toward me. Do you think they thought I was going to take them all?
They might have.
Yeah.
Maybe
They
you
might
hadn't
have been
taken one
thinking,
before, and they were like, "Hey,
Never had.
these are
Never
ours."
turkey. I turkey
that
hunted in there the
stingy
first year.
jerk.
I turkey hunted in the front. I did all my hunting in the front. In the
Yeah.
first year I turkey hunted, there's no turkeys out there. What am I turkey hunting for? I go into the back and I find where some turkeys are. So yeah, okay, now I'll turkey hunt. And so I got all these preparations done. I burned off this half of the field, and that light got away from me. That was an interesting
my.
day. Yeah, because I walked around the outside and it was all sagebrush. So I burned it to the inside, and it started going there for a little bit. But I chose that place because it was relatively clear. It was high up on a little ridge line, and I could see for a long way. So I felt it like it was a good spot. And who knows how close these things had been to me. I can remember several times, especially one night. During deer season, I live 45 minutes away. So I would hunt until I couldn't see anymore. And instead of going home, coming back at 5 a.m., I would just go sleep in my truck. But sometimes I would build a little fire and sit out, nature's television. And I very distinctly heard an owl one night, but it wasn't an owl. This was a guy trying to sound like an owl. And I didn't really think anybody was messing with me. There was only one person that really knew where I was, and that was the guy that hooked me up with his grandfather. It's him. And I think he's signaling me or something, because it was who. It was very breathy. It wasn't, like the little trill you hear when owls actually, barred owls especially. So I yelled something to the effect of, "Hey, I hear you. Come on up," or whatever, and nobody ever came. And I remember getting in my truck. I think, it kind of creeped me out a little bit. So I think that was them. I remember being in a shooting house early one day. It was probably 3 in the afternoon. Didn't have anything better to do. So I went in and got in the shooting house, and I was just kind of sitting there waiting because the deer were coming out just before dark. And I could hear kids screaming, yelling right down in front of me into the creek bed, 200 yards away, loud, like they're playing. Well, I can't shoot that way now. So I get out and I walk down there, and I get there and there's nobody there. And it's 700 yards from where I am up to the house through the thickest woods you're ever going to want to see. Nobody came down there. But again, you rationalize these things, not to mention, didn't know this, there was only one 12-year-old girl around there. There were no kids. I didn't find this out till 10 years later when I went back and shot the film. Because I went back to where everything happened. I had to go twice to get it done. But I went back and shot where everything happened, told the whole story, where I saw it, and you can see it's our 5th documentary. Because I'd already told my story a couple times at that point. People wanted to see where it was. So I just, okay, we'll do it. So I took 6 people with me with guns and dogs. I was expecting to hear knocking at least. Mm-hmm. But when I talked to the owner, he saw it when he was 15. Said it was a tall gorilla. And they still hear the knocking to this day, late at night. And something the old man told me a long time ago, he's passed away at this point. He was in his late 70s when I was hunting out there. But we were talking one day because I could probably kill 8-10 deer a year out of there. It was that good of a habitat. Go get them processed, and I would just bring them half deer meat and steaks and sausage and all that good stuff. Well, I'm dropping off meat one day, and we're talking, and there are no animals. They don't have a dog, a cat, no chickens, nothing. And I remember asking him, he said, "Well, dogs just don't hang around here." I'm thinking, you feed a country dog and he ain't going nowhere.
Yeah.
If
he isn't hanging around, there's a pretty good reason for it.
Yeah, something was happening to him, probably.
I would guess imagine,
that I think there was at least a family of 4, maybe 5 out there in that area. Because of what happened one night when I think I walked right up in the middle of them. I thought it was hogs. This was either the year before or 2 years before this that I'd seen it. I got lost. I was hunting off in the back because I was so sure of myself. It got dark and I missed my trail. And I don't care. It's the worst time to get lost because it's February 1st. It's cold, even in South Mississippi, and it was mist and rain. So I couldn't see stars. I couldn't hear traffic. And I don't care who you are. When you have no bearing, all the woods look all the same in every direction. So all I could think was find the lowest point, find the creek bed. I know where that comes out. So after a few hours, I found it. Well, I'm trudging through there, and I got my rifle, and I got this huge mag light. This was before LEDs was any good. I'm trudging through, and I probably got about 15 feet from them. And all of a sudden, just commotion. I mean, bodies, big ones, everywhere, just getting up. And my first thought is hogs. Of course, I'd never seen a hog out there in 7 years. I'd never even seen a hog track out there in 7 years. Excuse me. I spit before I drown. So I'm looking for a tree to get up, and these things, they didn't run away. They were up. They had the high ground on me. They went straight behind me, 20, 30 feet close, and stopped. And I'm thinking, they're coming. I remember that vividly because they're coming back. So I'm holding on to this tree, and I got my rifle, and I'm pointed my rifle with, I got my light in my hand. I'm shining. I couldn't see anything, but I didn't hear them fade off. They just went right there and stopped. I'm thinking they're still right there. So after about 15 minutes or so, I just kind of eased on off and finally came out our trail that I recognized a couple hours later. But that was what I told my friend, at work. It's like, yeah, man, I walked right in the middle of a bunch of hogs the other night. No, that was them. That was less than 100 yards from where I saw the thing, where that was.
Wow.
So there was at least 4 or 5.
Yeah, definitely a family group, sounds like. Sean Bussard had a question for you. He says, I've watched a lot of Bigfoot shows, and in every one they bang on trees. I would think that they would know where each other were at, and is it a good idea to mimic their behavior?
I think it depends on what you want to do, essentially. I try to tell people, I said this on our show, if you got skin in the game, put your money where your mouth is. Get out there with your camera and show us something, or show people something, at least try. There are plenty of people that can armchair research, but actually getting out there and doing it, I couldn't give you advice on what to do, if that's a good idea or not. After 14 years, all I really know is that they exist. Everything else is conjecture. They just seem to be different from one another in different places.
I hesitate to mimic anything they do because I don't know what it means, and I can see myself picking a fight inadvertently with one and not knowing what to do about it and ending up on one of Pilates' books.
Sure.
Yeah, I've never, any of the places I've gone, I've never done calls because, the Sierra Sound showed that their vocal range is both above and below what we are capable of doing. So it'd be like playing a stereo with one speaker. You're only getting part of the message. And I don't know, I might be insulting their mother or inviting them to the prom. I don't know what I'm saying, so I'm not going to yell at them. That's
right. And that's the thing. And you hear this a lot from quote unquote researchers or people that label themselves cryptozoologists. There's no school for that. You have to call yourself that. So when people take themselves that seriously and they start pushing out these beliefs, these incepted beliefs as facts, it becomes an issue with me when you have influence. Because when you have influence, the things that you say can be harmful. So that's why I have issue with some of these guys. It just say you don't know. And I get it. I understand. People do this for 20 years. It's hard to say you don't know very much after 20 years. Yeah. You've collected all these beliefs. Beliefs possess you. You don't possess a belief. This is what you feel in your heart is going on. So yeah, you're going to push it out there probably as a fact, but it wouldn't hurt, I think, for these guys to maybe train themselves to be a little bit more objective, especially in the moment when they are looking to confirm what they already believe and they get that, then it's set in stone. This is what's happening. There's no two ways about it. But these terms become ubiquitous. It's all they all do this. And I hear that a lot. And I just don't think you can put any particular behavior on all of them. I just don't think you can. I might be wrong, but it just doesn't seem that way from what we hear from people around the country.
That's one of the things we always tell them on the show, that anything we discuss is our opinion based upon observation and reading and research. It's by no means, none of us make any claims of being any kind of expert, and anybody that does claim to be an expert is probably trying to sell you something.
Yeah.
There you go. On the fact that they're an expert, maybe.
Yeah.
I call it the Dances with Wolves syndrome.
Yeah.
They're Kevin Costner, and they've infiltrated the tribe. Yeah.
Well, the thing that people have to remember is that it's a big continent, and there are a lot of different habitats on this continent, and each one requires its own set of behavior to survive on it. And they're everywhere. So of course they're going to be different from one place to the next. They're going to act different. That's just a common, that it doesn't take a lot. But you're right. People do have a tendency to say, well, they all do this and they all do that. And unless you've got every one of them tagged and you're watching them.
Yeah, you're talking about something essentially it's impossible to study. We can't even get a good enough picture of one to prove they're out there. And you're studying them. Come on, man.
Yeah.
It's just an idea. And it may be right. It might be a good idea. It could be true. All of it. And that's kind of how I look at it. As if, these guys have been out there, they've experienced these things, at least the ones they're dealing with. This is probably what's going on here. Yeah. It's kind of the way I view these things. But to put it on all of them to be the same, it just doesn't appear that way. They seem to be as diverse as human beings.
Well, look at grizzly bears. No two grizzly bears behave exactly the same way. They're unique animals. And when you were talking about earlier, when you didn't even think about filming one, I was hiking in Rocky Mountain National with some buddies one time, rounded a corner, and there was a grizzly bear about 20 yards away. And I didn't think about getting a camera out to take pictures until I was back at camp. My first thought was, we got to get the hell out of here before this thing eats us.
Sure. And
I think, and if you look at Timothy Treadwell, we also know that one grizzly bear can act different from one day to the next. One day,
whether or not they're hungry, how close they are to hibernation,
how close he is to them,
if it's sick and can't hunt very well.
And one of the more self-evident things I would think is these creatures. I had a thought and it just completely left the track.
That's okay. Take it. Deep breath. What is there's a trick to remembering that. Hold your breath.
It'll hit me. It'll hit me eventually. What seems to be self-evident, I think, is that these creatures are not bound by their own natural drives, like most animals are. There, you can bait in a deer, you can bait in just about any animal. That's not because we assume they're not self-aware. Now, there are animals that are self-aware, dogs, but we've kind of trained them to be, at this point. But most animals, if you held a mirror up to them, they would look at it and think it's another animal. That's what I mean by that. I think these creatures are absolutely self-aware and sentient. I think they are predisposed to hiding, to not being discovered. I think that's why we don't find their bodies, because if that is the case, they're not going to leave one of their dead around for us to find. They're going to be busted at that point. So I think they have to be doing, obviously these creatures exist. Something has to be happening with the bodies there. So they don't run in our bodies, probably for the same reason.
Yeah. Well, the big argument everybody always makes is, why haven't we found one on the fossil record? And what people fail to realize is the conditions to create a fossil are very, very specific. And only one out of every million animals actually becomes a fossil.
Yeah, well, DA, we kind of do. Look what they've been digging out of the ground, these hominoid skulls. They've been digging up for the last 200 years. I don't think that's us. Honestly.
No, it's definitely not us, but that's not proof to people.
No, I think that's their ancestors, not ours. But you got the 8-10 foot skeletons they take out of the mounds that they sent to the Smithsonian have gotten lost. I think, things happen to these bones. It doesn't make it to mainstream media where the world can know about it. Most reports are going to go to the police, especially back when they used to make you sign affidavits, and it's not going any farther than that. So it's not like this, if there is some Department of Interior or whatever agency actively keeping this a secret, which I believe wholeheartedly someone has to be holding this information down. But the thing about the truth to me is it stands the test of time. They can't do it forever. And technology is getting better and better and better and better. We're gonna eventually get something so convincing that their heads are gonna itch too hard. They're gonna have to start paying attention.
I got another quick question for you. And it sort of runs in with this question. While you're out there, have you had experiences with other cryptids? Have you seen anything else that you could not identify as a Bigfoot or a Sasquatch?
I've only ever had one other sighting that I'm pretty sure was one, but it was just a glimpse. I was in Florida with Mark and Melanie. We were in a place called No Man's Land, and that was named that by the FWC for a reason. And they were doing a segment. I'm standing up on this little high bank, and I've got the canal behind me, and I can see across the palmettos pretty good for about 50, 60 yards. And I look to my left, and there's a tree there, and the sun's shining down. It's 11 o'clock in the morning, and they're sitting here doing a segment for the show. And I'm just kind of looking, and I can see this shape, and it looks like Apex head and shoulders, and it's about 30 yards away. And I'm watching it, and it looks like it's big but short, like maybe 5 feet tall. And I'm watching it, and I'm like, I don't think so. Anyway, so I look back to where they are, and I look back over there, and it was gone. So whatever it was, I believe it was one of these creatures. I think he was down on his knees in the palmettos, and all I could see was the dark of him, the outline, I guess, from the sun behind him. And as soon as I turned my gaze, he left, or he hid better, one or the other.
That's actually one of the things I wanted to address from the documentary from 168. You show a picture, and I think it's you that shows it. And you said, I show this picture to people, and they right away, they say, yeah, I see the head and the shoulders. And then you say, no, that's a face. And you show the outline of the face. But the second that you say, no, that's a face, I was able to zero in on it. But until that moment, I was one of those people like, oh, yeah, I see the head and the shoulders there.
You got to provide context. That's the thing is, if you're not providing context, people are going to go because you don't know what size this could be. The actual shot, it was only about 40 feet away. in these places, these dark canopies, you are not going to see them with your naked eye. You just can't. The camera sees it because we use mirrorless cameras. They let in a lot of light. It brightens up, takes out a lot of the shadow, so they're able to actually see. But I believe these creatures know we can't see them too, because we never react to them in real time. So it's only after we go back, and you see the one that they got, the blinking one, that thing sitting there, and you can see the top of his head and part of his shoulder, and you see this chimpanzee kind of looking face, but it's got a hooded nose like human. And when it blinks, what else can that be in South Florida? It's not a baby moose,
Right.
So, but they couldn't see that. They just could smell them, could hear them. But this was one of those places they went and threw apples, like for 2 weeks, apples every day, whole bag. And I think when they pulled up, these things would probably get in place and wait for them to throw the apples. So that was one of those cases, and there were plenty of them like that. I think there's 3 different ones where we actually show movement, but it's so hard to catch them on camera, period, much less to catch them moving, because they just don't move. They just don't move.
Very early on, you had one in the oh gosh, what is it called? I keep wanting to say infrasound. the camera at night.
Oh,
wasn't it moving?
Night vision?
Wasn't it moving early on?
Oh, you talking about the red eye?
Documentary? I don't remember. I just remember thinking I saw it. My mind is such that I can remember much better 3 days from now what I saw today than I do today. Which is why I tried to watch it twice to make sure I had it in, and it still didn't work. But anyway,
Well,
I tell you
we
what,
made,
old age sucks.
doesn't it? We made 168 hours. It just how it turned out. I had no idea how it was going to go. I knew how I wanted it to go, but I was naive to
And that
think
was the
that we could
first.
do it that way. And so we got to take a lot more people next time to do it the way I want to do it. Actually.
Yeah.
Ron Yelton had a question. He said, "Have you had any cat people reports?"
I have heard that from Donnie Miller. He was a kid when they saw several of them running beside the car, and that's what he described them as, was cat people.
Wow.
He said they were small, 3-4 feet tall, humanoid, running on 2 legs, but their face was very cat-like. Yeah, only one I've ever heard other than that, though.
Yeah, that's the first one I've ever heard. And Lanita Bryant says, "Kerry, if you had short videos of high-pitched talking, could you clean it up and make it louder?"
I mean, with the program I got, I can give it a shot. Slow it down. I've got a 16-track sound recorder that I use to edit audio with, so I can see what I can do. Sure.
Back to the documentary real quick. That only consists of the first 2 days, right?
That's right. And not a lot happened. You know, what happened is what you guys saw. Fortunately enough, Mark and Melanie were able to provide a lot of what they had captured in there over the years.
Yeah.
The last 2 years especially. And that just that specific area, every image we showed was right within a mile of where we camped.
And are you going to do anything with the additional days of videos? Or
Yeah, it'll be another part. I've got several, a lot more field action of actual real-time things happening to the guys in the field is going in. I got the best shot is in the second part. I almost put it in the first one. I was like, no, this didn't happen the first 2 days, so we're going to put it in the second one. It's one of these basketball player. I'll send you guys a picture. It's 180 yards away. He's way out there, but he's a 7-footer. He's standing there in this bush, and you can see the shoulder muscle, the bicep muscle. He looks like Dwight Howard, like a 7-foot tall basketball player. He's slim, but he's got reddish hair, gray skin, and you can see his face really good. I mean, if I would have had the 800 millimeter lens that we just bought, then there would be no doubt. It'd be crystal clear. So when we go back, we're taking the lens. Just the lens was $8,000. So we're going back with some better stuff for sure to try to do better. You know, still plenty of people that look at that and say, "Oh, well, that's just pareidolia," and that's a lot of not really understanding how pareidolia works. The only thing I showed had the criteria I talked about: the cone-shaped head, unless it was super clear. You could see, you know, if you can see a leaf, the leaves are not making this face. And yeah, their faces are green. They look like the bushes, but that's the idea. They're trying to look like the bushes. You know, they don't want you to see them. Apparently.
Something you touched on in the 168 was you guys were discussing about the gray skin and the ability to pick up like background colors, how the gray skin can appear green. And that's something I found incredibly fascinating, because that to me just speaks of a natural camouflage ability and can explain a lot of why people say they just disappeared in the woods.
Well, it's either that or it's something they're putting on their skin, to me. I don't think it's chromatophores like a squid or a lizard. I think it's what it looks like. And I was able to find other animals that had this achromatic toned skin. This gray, black, white, and everything in between is the achromatic spectrum. And when you take anything gray, take a paint swatch from Sherwin-Williams and put a gray one and put a clear coat on it, hold it up next to any color, and it will reflect that color. Gray is the only color that does that. White kind of does it, but you can still tell it's white. But gray will reflect, and that's why this gray skin is such a good camouflage adaptation. So I think maybe the oil on their skin acts as a clear coat, possibly. And when the sun is shining bright and you get what is not reflection so much as diffusion is what's happening. It's like shining, like I said earlier, shine a light on a swimming pool and you'll see the waves of the swimming pool on the wall and the light. That's diffusion. It's carrying that reflect what's being reflected with it. So I think the light coming in from the green is reflecting and showing, but it's not, if you look at it, especially the first one I show that's really green that I said is 9 feet tall and he's peeking his head up. You can see his apex and his black hair and perfectly see his nose and the white in his eye. You see all that and he's just peeking over looking at him and he's a 9-footer, but that green is not the same color as everything else around. It's like lima bean green. It's it's off. And that's how I'm able to pick them out. Is I'll look for something that's a little bit off. But Mark and Melanie have run into them and gotten a good look at one that he called was a dead guy. He said this guy just looked like a zombie. Skin was gray, pale, didn't look like he was doing very well, like he wasn't huge. But got a long enough look to see that, and then it zipped away like cartoon fast. Got out of there. So they're hard to catch. It's just as simple as that. They don't, it's like they want to get close enough to see you where you can't see them, and they'll put something between you and them where you're not getting to them with any speed at all. As the way it seemed. So just 7 years of kind of figuring these things out along the way for the Zaskies is what helped us more than anything, and being able to listen to them, how to film, stabilization. When you got digital, stabilization is the most important thing. Be stable, because it's that movement that gives you the blob squatch from 40 feet away. When you zoom in on it, you're not getting the good enough detail. And we had the 180 yarder was on a tripod, and it's still a little fuzzy on the edges. But even then, he's clear enough to me. And when you see it, you'll see what I'm talking about. You can see the part in his hair. You can see his, like I said, he's just poking out of that bush, but you can see the sun shining off of his muscle, of his bicep, his shoulder. You see the nose, the perfect symmetry to the face. This is not some off-kilter face with the eye over here and an eye down here, and he's looking off at the moon somewhere. No, he's looking directly at us. So that, behavior is just one of those things that you have to consider when you're looking at a picture of a Sasquatch. It's these ones you see that are up walking through the woods. I would treat that like the milk that's gone 2 days past its date. I wouldn't buy it.
Midier has a question. Where does he think all these creatures come from? Inner Earth, cave systems?
I have no idea. I've heard so many theories on this. I think maybe if you follow Melba Ketchum, that these creatures are some kind of hybrid, part human, which makes sense to me. The mitochondrial, the maternal DNA is 100% human, and the father is unidentifiable. It's not in GenBank. But what could it be? These markers they're finding in this human DNA only goes back 8 to 15,000 years. Well, what was around back then? Us and Neanderthals that we know of. So if this is some hybrid of us and Neanderthal, and this is the product of it, usually the hybrid's bigger than both the parents.
But they've done gene sequencing, checking the Human Genome Project for specifically Neanderthal DNA, and I think it's Mongolia has the highest percentage of Neanderthal DNA. So they know what Neanderthal DNA is.
Well, this is the thing about it. For this to be true, they would have had to taken Neanderthal DNA from GenBank out and label it as something else for that to be true. And if the powers that be, if this is true, and that's what is happening, and they wanted to keep it hidden, then that's exactly what they would do.
Good point.
That they would, because you're going to discover what it is. Then, it's going to be unknown.
I completely reevaluated my opinions of Bigfoot after I read Denny Vandramini's Them and Us.
That was really an interesting book.
Could be the
A
Nephilim.
fantastic book.
You hear about the Nephilim? This could be sons of Cain. Could be. We just don't know enough. We don't. Someone probably does. And hopefully one day we will all get to know. I've come to the point at this point in 15 years of doing this that I don't care. I don't care what they are. I don't care what they do. The only thing that matters to me is that people are aware enough that they can be in the woods during and when they have these experiences, go there. Think about it being one of these, and then they can have their own experience, and I don't have to convince them of anything. They'd be in it. What's this book you're talking about?
Oh, I don't
have
have
yours
my
handy?
No, I'm not in the bedroom. I have a huge bookshelf behind me when I'm in the bedroom. I
read.
normally I could just pull it out and
I'm a
show it
reader.
to you. Yeah, you'd love my bedroom. It's a whole wall of books.
There
My
it is.
mother made me read growing up. She didn't want me to be another good old redneck country boy.
Sorry, I had to get it off my bookshelf. This is the book.
It's yeah.
Even
There's
though-
It says, Them and Us, How Neanderthal Predation Created Modern Humans.
and show him the picture in the book of the reimagining of what a Neanderthal looks like.
That's exactly what I was looking
Oh,
for.
okay.
Oh, you need to watch Neanderthal Profile of a Super Predator.
Mhm, I've
Yeah.
seen that. That's fantastic.
That looks an awful lot like a Sasquatch to me. With the hair and all, you know.
These are black and white, but this is kind of their reimagining of what.
That's what's in Super Predator. Same thing.
Yeah. Yeah,
What's
this
what
book
they
by
would have
Denny
to.
Vandermeene is a fantastic book if you get a chance to read it.
The bones are a representation of the amount of torque your muscles produce. So yeah, it makes sense that they would look like that and not these humanized drawings that they put out there for the rest of us
Right.
to keep us asleep, I suppose.
Well, you know, if they look human, they're less threatening.
Well, sure. And for whatever reason, it's being held down. It's probably a good one. I hope it is.
I hope so.
At this point, I hope it's a good reason, and not just something ridiculous like money. That would
Yeah,
that would probably
and
upset
yet I
me.
think that's what it's going to be about.
Yeah, I hope
I
not.
think it's a financial.
Well, I hope it actually describes more of where we actually come from.
I agree.
That's
I think
probably-
there's a lot of mysteries that can be solved once this is actually fully brought into the light.
sure. Well, it flies in the face of the evolutionary theory we've been taught for the last 200 years. It completely and totally destroys that.
One thing
Even
we've noticed in the last 4 or 5 years is that they really don't like it when you prove the science wrong.
Yeah, I know. Yeah, and there's no scientist that's going to jump on board with this and then ruin their career.
Jeff Meldrum kind of stuck his neck out, but he's one of a few.
He backed
Jane
up.
Goodall went on record saying she believed they were out there.
John Bendernagel.
Mhm,
There's a few
But
of them out
this
there,
is-
Grover
Not
Krantz, but every one of them had,
Right.
well, I think probably Jane Goodall got less backlash than anybody, but most
Well,
of
she's
them
a
when they
female.
said
and She had studied
Yeah.
apes, but Meldrum, back in 2012, when he got kicked in the teeth, he didn't get kicked in the teeth for saying he thought they existed. He got kicked in the teeth for suggesting that it was a human primate. That's why he backpedaled and started calling it Gigantopithecus, which is what the
Yeah.
rest of them claim. They're okay with that. But when you start saying human, that's when people have issue. That's when scientists really have an issue. And that's when I mentioned that in the film, that I believe that's the real problem science has with validating such a creature, is that they're just so much like humans. There's this human side to them, this homo genus that appears to be prevalent in these creatures. And it's easier to go along to get along than it is to buck the established order.
Very
So,
much so.
absolutely. The interesting thing about popular science is the fact that there's a reason for the word popular in there. Scientists are going to go with what's popular, and the only way they're going to really get interested is if we make this subject so popular they can't ignore it anymore.
got to bring more people in. We got to get more people paying attention. That's why we focus strictly on awareness, because I think that's a game we can win, actually making people pay attention to the possibility when they're in the woods and they hear and have these experiences. to prepare themselves. And
Mhm.
you know, if that can happen and they're able to do that, then maybe we've got these people coming into the subject. I don't think we're going to be able to prove anything without a type specimen. Video and pictures are not going to do it, especially in the digital age.
Yeah.
But-
I grabbed one of those images so we
Yeah,
can get
there
on the
you
screen
go.
more clearly.
That's it. There you go. I don't know about the cat-eyed look, but you know, the
Yeah.
eyes high up on the forehead. I mean, this is what we see.
Yeah, if you get a chance to read that book, I would highly recommend it. It's one of the better books I've read in the last few years.
Well,
Mark Napier says if you start a Bigfoot research grant, they will jump in bed.
yeah, absolutely. That's another thing. Money. Look, the creature itself makes it almost impossible. And then you've got, when accidents do happen, you got somebody there cleaning it up. It's they've managed to do it for this long, but there are more and more people having these experiences. And the more that happens, and the more that people can start coming forward, then others can be convinced at least to pay attention. Then I think maybe we're actually getting somewhere. But until then, all the different opinions and infightings, and that's the thing about this subject, is the whole landscape of the Bigfoot subject is there are 1,000 pathways across it because we've got no answers, essentially more questions than answers, really. So what do? You can't stand there at the convergence and aggregate every path and decide which one's the right one to go down. That would be impossible for anyone. So everyone essentially forges their own, and I think that's the best course. As long as you're in the subject, what you think is as valid as what anybody else thinks.
I agree totally. That's something we've said on here multiple times. Is we're giving our opinion,
Yes.
based on our own observations and interactions, and that doesn't mean our opinion is the right one. Anybody's opinion could be the right one, or none of our opinions could be the right one. Everybody's opinion on the subject is just as valid as anyone else's until the science proves it.
For sure.
Yeah. Absolutely. So anyway, that's my cue to DA. It's I don't have anything.
Getting me that time, I think.
Yeah. I know you got to get up early in the morning, and I appreciate you staying on late with us.
Yeah, absolutely. Enjoyed it.
Well, I hate to keep you if you've got an early morning. And won't you tell everybody where the links are, what for the name of the channel and everything for everybody to look for that, and I will.
It's Bigfoot Odyssey.
Well.
It's Bigfoot Odyssey. If you want to see our documentaries, you can go to our playlists. When you go to the channel, there you see at the top it'll say home, videos, playlists. You can hit playlist, and there'll be a little drop down arrow, and you can see we've got researcher reports, all the live shows, everything's broken up. And you'll see the documentaries, and there's 13 of those there. You can watch those there.
Watch the fifth one. That's a really good one.
168 hours is the last one.
Yeah, that's a good one.
And I
too.
think when people see that, they look at it and they're like, "Oh wow, 168 hours of Bigfoot stories." And I'm thinking I probably shouldn't have named it that, but 168 hours is a week, and that's how long we were there, and that's how long we filmed or recorded anyway. So
maybe that's
folks. It is an awesome documentary.
I appreciate it.
I didn't think about that, but maybe that is something that is deterring people. It's not 168 hours long. The documentary is well worth watching, but it's not going to keep you busy for 168 hours. You don't have to take a week's vacation.
Yeah, there you go.
And I highly recommend it to anybody that hasn't seen it yet, because I was enthralled. And go back and watch those other documentaries. Catch some of the live shows that they were doing, especially when they were out there and they were kind of feeding back a few times on what they were doing. That was really fascinating. Really, it's a good show. It's a good channel. If you haven't been to the channel, absolutely go visit it. It'll be worth your time.
I posted the link in the chat room. So if you guys see that link, just click on the link and hit like and subscribe. Check them out, and you'll be happy you did.
I appreciate you guys very much.
Well, appreciate you coming on. I know you're a busy man, and like I said, you have to get up early in the morning. We appreciate you taking the time and spending with us and hanging out with our listeners and sharing the knowledge you've gathered. And I hope they check out all your videos because they're definitely going to love them.
Thank you very much. It's good to DA. It's good to meet you.
You too,
it's
sir.
good to see you again.
And it sure was good to have you on. I hope we can have you on again sometime.
Absolutely. Right back at you. You guys got to come do our show now.
We'd love to.
Anytime you want, we'll be there for you.
We'll set it up.
All right, Kerry.
You have a good night, sir. Thank you for joining us.
Good night, y'all.
Good night. So, DA, how was your week so far?
Not so far. It's been pretty good. Still dealing with aftermath from the night of the bad crash, but that's nowhere near ending. It's my month-long nightmare that's now stretching toward 2. But we're surviving. I mean, it's just a process. How about you? How are you feeling?
Whew, I tell you, I'm living on Mucinex these days. It's that time, and my husband, who's a truck driver, it's time for him to get all of his DOT physical and all of that stuff done. And we've been running around because he has a CPAP machine, and he has his blood pressure kind of wobbles on the edge, and it actually, sadly, the whole rest of the time, any other time you could take his blood pressure, and 115/85. About a month before, 6 weeks before it comes time to do that physical, he starts thinking about it and goes up over the limit. And as soon as he gets his physical done, it'll drop right back down. But because he can't keep it down during the physical, he has to have it done every stinking year.
That sucks.
So, yeah, we've been doing a lot of running around with that and getting all that paperwork done. And he's getting ready to retire. So we're excited about that.
Well, that's a plus.
Yeah, and I'm just going to plug myself because I have the opportunity. I got my first official video up today for Neoma Finn. It's called The 3 Hangings of Cal Logston. And so, anybody wants to check that out, that'd be great.
Well, I am getting ready to post the link.
All right. So I'm really excited about that. Now, this particular video is not cryptid related. It's just a very strange story. But that's what my channel is about, just strange things. Sometimes they're cryptid related, sometimes they're not. Anybody that watches What If It's True, they've seen the first 2 stories I did because I posted them on there to give people a taste of what they're like.
Mm-hmm.
So, but other than that, I've got a couple of editing jobs coming up, I think. And
nice.
So that's really going to help Christmas, but it's going to make for some pretty busy work weeks in the next couple of.
Yeah. We both got our work cut out for us. Yeah. I've got the, I've got, well, I've got to go ahead and just let the cat out of the bag. Within the next week, every one of my books will be available in hardback.
Yay!
Yeah, we had to redo the covers, not change the covers. The covers are going to be essentially the same, but we had to reposition things to fit the new croppings, the new format for the cover. So we had to redo those, and I'm in the process of getting all of those uploaded, and that should come out very soon, just in time for Christmas. If you're looking for hardback books for the book lover on your Christmas list,
cool.
So those are coming very soon. I'm really excited to have that done. Lakeview Man 3 is coming along nicely. I can't wait to get that out, and I'm also pretty happy about that. But I've got so many books planned, things I want to get done, things I want to write next, new projects. It's going to keep me busy for a long time to come. And every time I turn around, I'm adding books to the list. I'm like, God dang it. Now I got another series I have to write.
Yeah. I know how it is. And it just seems like the more I think I'm getting things done, the more I get behind on things I got to do. But
I
it's
know,
okay.
right?
Yeah,
Yeah,
it's
I
okay.
try to get things done, and I look over at the list, and it's not getting any shorter. It's just getting longer.
I know.
Like, God dang it, I knocked 7 off of them, but then I added 5 more right back to it.
I think I could actually make a sign that says that the more I get things done, the more I got to do. But it's better than having nothing to do at all.
That's my grandfather
So
used to say, the willing horse gets worked to death.
my brother always reminds me this is a good problem to have.
Very true.
So yeah,
10 years ago when I just had one book out, if someone would have said, 10 years from now, you're going to be working your ass off to get books out in different formats and you're going to have the show. And I'd have been like, yeah, that's not going to happen.
Feels good, doesn't it?
It does feel really good. But I'm not on a Jonathan Mayberry level. And I hope to be one day. But I'm much higher up that ladder than I was 10 years ago. And that's thanks to everybody that's listening tonight and everybody that's read the books and been there for the journey. And, I think the journey's just getting started. And I think it's going to take us to a lot of new places.
Yeah. Well,
I'm glad you thought of inviting Kerry on the show. He was a fantastic guest. I would love to have had him on longer, but I know he's got to get up early.
Yeah, I had suggested to him that if it would work for him better to be on Saturday, but I forgot he has a show on Saturday too. So maybe we could go an hour earlier or something next time. Oh, no, that wouldn't work either because he has a show at 7 on.
You mentioned having us on. I'm like doing the math. Like, I can probably, as long as we're off before 9, I think we can make it happen.
I think he's got 3 shows a week. So, but definitely, he's definitely a fascinating person. Love to hear his stories. Love to watch his documentaries, and thrilled to death. I couldn't believe how easy it was, how quickly and easily he said yes, because I thought, oh, he's probably so busy, but bless his heart, he just made time for us. And you got to like somebody like that.
Yeah, and a super nice guy too. I mean, knowledgeable.
Mm-hmm.
I love listening to his encounter stories, and just so much.
Man, I'll tell you what, I've heard that encounter twice now, all the way through. I've heard bits and pieces of it, but I've heard it twice all the way through now. Whew! It makes me sweat thinking about it.
Well, I do have something new I would like to show off.
Okay.
This is from the good folks over at Scallywag Tactical. I'm going to unbox it for the first time.
Oh,
show you guys. This little bugger is called the Mini Jack. And if you're looking for a stocking stuffer for someone in your life that enjoys a good knife, this one's only $21.50 on sale at scallywagtactical.com. And it's not a huge little knife, but it's spring assisted. And it's just a great little knife. Perfect for carrying in your pocket for cutting anything. And it's made out of surgical steel. So it'll take tool steel. And it actually says stainless steel. Okay. Sorry, I was wrong. But it'll take a beating and still hold an edge. And it's just it's like wicked easy to open. Just
wow.
Really neat little knife. I was happy to add that to my collection. Thanks to Craig. Thanks, Craig. The Mini Jack is on sale for $21.50. It's usually $35. If you go to scallywagtactical.com and go into their section called folders, you'll see their collection of folding knives. I've got most of those, but not all of them, because some of them are a little pricey. But the other one called the Jolly Roger is also on sale, and I've got that one. In fact, it's on my belt right now, on my pocket, I mean. And it's a little bigger. And it's a rather chunkier knife.
Nice.
And if you're looking for a good Christmas gift for somebody, these are awesome blades, and they are high quality. And
cool.
that one's on sale for $32, which is not bad for a knife of that high quality.
And for those of you who plan to surprise your loved one with a knife like that for Christmas, you might also look into Dark Angel Medical.
Just in case they peel their hand open on the air. I did that with this rascal. And this thing is wicked sharp, like surgical sharp.
Want to show us again?
No. This thing is straight out of the box is as sharp as a scalpel. It is nasty sharp. I don't carry that one because I'm afraid I'm going to cut my finger off if I do.
Oh, shoot. I'm sorry. I couldn't resist that.
I still got like a mark on my wrist. That's always how we check pocket knives, see how sharp they are. After I've run them across the wet zone, I'll like shave a little hair off my arm. I went to go with that thing and it was like uh-oh. That was such a close shave. It went through several layers of skin as well.
Oh, shoot. That's just too funny. Well, I do recommend that you warn people that they're going to get something sharp.
Oh, yeah. Any of the scallywag blades you get are wicked sharp right out of the box. Fantastic blades, but they are wicked sharp. I was hoping Kerry Davis was going to be able to jump in tonight, but I think since he wasn't, I'm going to go ahead and play the commercial from Dark Angel Medical, just to remind you folks that there's no season on saving lives, and Dark Angel Medical has the best kits I've ever carried. As a cop, I carried one for 10 years, and I can't imagine a better kit to trust my life to. I carry a Dark Angel kit everywhere I go. In fact, they've got a new kit called the Spear Kit. And this is it. You'll notice it's got a little Team Odin rocker on it. You request the Team Odin rocker, and you'll get that little Team Odin patch that goes on it. They're fantastic kits. I cannot stress how good those kits are. And if you ever use one to save a life, they will replenish the kit for free. The kit for life guarantee. So here's a word from Kerry.
Everybody, this is Kerry Pocket Dot Davis from Dark Angel Medical, and you are listening to DA Ex Machina with DA Roberts. You may recognize me or some of my products from Dark Angel Medical in some of the Apex Predator, Lakeview Man, and Wild Hunt books, and you can get those products at www.darkangelmedical.com, along with training classes on how to use those products and save a life. Shoot us an email at info@darkangelmedical.com and be the difference.
I still love the way he says www.
Oh, yeah. And there's a special discount code for our viewers. If you go to darkangelmedical.com and use discount code Cryptid25 at checkout, you'll get 25% off.
Cool. All righty then. Well, I don't mean to make it too short of a show tonight, but I've still got a ton of work to get my husband's DOT stuff all straightened out tomorrow. So I think I'm probably going to call it a night around 11 tonight.
Well, I can't juggle, so I'm probably going to have to do the same.
I'm sorry.
No problem. Well, folks, only an hour and 34 is kind of a record for us. I don't think we've ever done a show quite that short. But unfortunately, our guest wasn't able to stay as long because he had to get up early. And I want to thank Kerry Arnold and all the guys over at Bigfoot Odyssey, because they make a wonderful documentary. And I think you guys will love those if you check them out. If you hadn't had a chance, hit that like and subscribe button here on our channel as well as theirs. And we certainly appreciate the support. And want to thank you guys for joining us tonight. We had a great interaction from the crowd tonight. A lot of folks chiming in, and comments were great, and had some great questions for Kerry. And we just want to let you guys know how much we appreciate you guys spending time with us and taking time out of your schedules to hang out with us and talk about Bigfoot and other crazy stuff. And I hope you guys will join us Saturday night when me and Steve will play host to the good fellas from the Horror Chronicles podcast. JT and Ryan will be in the house. If you guys have not checked out Horror Chronicles podcast, they're like the heavy metal heroes of the creepiness. They really bring a lot of energy. They're very, very funny guys, and they love anything to do with horror. And they're not from terribly far from me. They're from Rolla, Missouri, which is about an hour and a half away. And they know a lot of the same creepy places I've been, and they're going to talk about some local horror stories and cryptid encounters and all things great in between. We might even talk about horror movies. We don't know. We'll see what's going on. But check us out on Saturday when we're going to have the guys from the Horror Chronicles, and it's going to be a good time.
Sounds like it.
Yeah, we're going to have a lot of fun.
I'm jealous.
Well, you can always listen or jump in if you feel like it. If you ain't too busy,
that's true.
You are always welcome. And Tony Canopicus says, awesome. I love JT and Ryan. Those guys are a hoot. I've been on Horror Chronicles a few times now, and it's always a riot. We're always cracking up and throwing jokes around and having a good old time. And we talk about a lot of creepy stuff. It's a lot of fun. I want to thank you guys for being with us again. Appreciate you guys. Appreciate all of you guys so much. And thank you guys for being so excited about the books. I know we got the hardbacks coming out. I'll have more release information hopefully coming in the next couple of weeks about the status of Lakeview Man 3. And let's see if we can get that done and out and ready. And also we didn't do a giveaway tonight.
Ooh,
we
need to hang out for about another 15 minutes or so. It won't kill us. We'll find something to talk about.
Okay, well, I guess we're going to hang out for a few more minutes. We're not going to quite shut it down yet, as I forgot we hadn't done a giveaway tonight.
I was rushing it. My bad.
Oh, you're all right. I'm going over to Nightbot right now.
Okay.
I'm going to get set up for giveaways. Okay.
If you're on YouTube, make sure you make a comment so that you've been active in the last 15 minutes. Say Absolutely. Hi to me.
Yeah, say hi, type something random. So which should we do? Should we do a code for the new audiobook or an Amazon card? I think we did a code last time, so I think we should probably do the audio, the
Amazon
I'm sorry,
card.
the Amazon card.
Okay. We'll do an Amazon card.
We will do a $5 Amazon card. Let me get that open and set it off to the side.
Okay.
Outstanding. So we have Nightbot all set up. We will do that giveaway here in just a few minutes. I'll give everybody a chance to chime in and make sure your name is active. Sal says hi, Naoma. He's making sure he's active. Mark says that's okay. I never win anything anyway. Sorry, folks.
Yeah.
Still crouping a little bit.
Living on these things.
I got a big bag behind me.
Yeah, Mucinex. That's all I do.
Hooter
I tell you what, it's the creeping crud, and I just can't get rid of it. I'm sorry. Go ahead.
Cooter Transport says disqualify me. I got a nice journal from y'all. Well, Josh, I don't know how to disqualify somebody from a drawing. So the only thing I can say is if Hooter Transport wins, we'll draw again. Josh, do you want to do the drawing? Because I don't know how to I just barely know how to do the drawing. Josh, go ahead and log into Nightbot and you can run it for us.
Oh, I've been up since early this morning. Brad had to go to the doctor in Murfreesboro, and it's on the other side of Nashville. We had to drive through Nashville in rush hour traffic this morning. It was not fun.
Northwood Cryptids says, I wish all I had was a cough. I'm still recovering from slipping and falling flat on my back on Monday. Oh, man, that sucks. I'm sorry.
I burned my hand pretty bad on Thanksgiving, and I'm sick, and so it's slow. It's not healing, I think, is why. Because I think when I'm sick, all of my defenses are down. And So I'm Michael Jackson. I'm wearing a Michael Jackson glove.
There you go.
Yeah. I'm bad. I'm bad. Or something like that. Oh.
There you go.
Not necessarily a fan. Don't know his music very well. Oh, no, I do know Thriller.
Josh, let me know when you're ready to do the drawing, buddy. Luis Noriega says you need to drive in LA traffic.
I have, and the only thing that I can say is at least they have enough roads for their traffic. Nashville has outgrown its roads. That's what makes Nashville. And unfortunately, it was a small town with a lot of small town drivers who knew how to drive in a small town, and now it's not. And those drivers don't know what they're doing. It's like driving through El Paso, only with a lot more people. And El Paso, Texas may very well be the worst place in the world to drive.
Northward said you're supposed to deep fry the turkey, not your hand.
Yeah. That's a lesson I learned. And I will try to remember it in the future.
Josh says I'm not looking at Josh, I never pay attention to Messenger anymore because it always seems every time I go live, I get 25 people trying to talk to me all at once. And I'm like, I can't just do chats here. Okay. He says he's been logged in. Okay. I got you. Roll it anytime you're ready, Josh.
Drum roll, please. Okay, so anyway.
We got to remember they're like 20 seconds behind us.
Oh, that's right. I forget.
Oh, we got a message from Nightbot.
All right. And it says?
Troy has won the giveaway.
I see that. Yes, Troy, you have won the giveaway. Tell him what he's won, DA.
You have won a $5 Amazon gift card, good for any purchase on Amazon. But coincidentally, a $5 Amazon gift card will get you any of my Kindle books, which are mostly priced at $4.99. A strange coincidence that was not intentional in any way, shape, or form. It was all my wife's idea. I blame her. Well, congratulations,
I'm just the co-host.
Troy.
I can agree if I have to. But
Troy, if you
hit
will,
me up privately, and I'll tell you the truth. Okay, go on.
Troy, if you will reach out to me. Let me. Where's my? Trying to find
your email.
Yeah.
It's pretty easy.
There we go.
DARoberts@DARoberts.net.
True. If you'll email me at DARoberts@DARoberts.net, I will get that code out to you tonight. So just, Troy, if you would, email me and tell me who you were, and so I know I'm emailing it to the right person, and I'll email that code directly out to you. Unless we're friends on Facebook, which I don't know. I don't know, but I would definitely get it to you as quick as I can. So hopefully you'll get that email, and we'll get that done very, very soon.
Second winner gets a journal from ATM. Took me a second.
All Tower Media.
Yeah, I was like, you could go to the ATM and get a journal now. That is so cool.
Oh, well, apparently we're doing another giveaway. Thank you, Josh.
Okay, I'm not going to drum roll this time. We're just going to pretend I did.
Josh, you can do that whenever you want to, since you're running that bad boy.
Dead man wins.
Awesome.
Yep, I see it now. I was looking up and I actually saw it. It did say Dead Man has won the giveaway. Right there. Woohoo. We're all good.
Awesome. Josh, do you want to reach out on the chat room to tell them how to contact you, or you want me to post something? Troy says email sent. Woohoo.
Yay.
All right, I will get that out to you as soon as we get clear from the show.
See? I'm right there with you. I thought exactly the same thing. I was like, wow. pretty amazing thing you got there. And congratulations to Troy and Dead Man.
Congratulations, guys.
Yeah.
Well, Troy said he's already emailed me, so I will get that out to him here just in a few minutes.
And I will certainly get my Christmas list out to you in the next 24 hours.
Sounds good to me.
Oh, shoot. Anyway. So.
Well, folks, we'll start wrapping it up once again. I want to thank you guys again for being with us. And Josh, thank you for setting up the Nightbot so we can do the giveaways. And Naomi, thank you for being here, and thank you to Kerry Arnold for being with us tonight and sharing his experiences and his wisdom and his YouTube channel over at the Bigfoot Odyssey group. And you guys check that out. Just some awesome videos over there for you guys to check out. Plenty of content to keep you busy for a little bit. Don't forget to smash that like and subscribe button for them and for us. And share the videos on Facebook or with your friends. That's how we can help the channel to grow and help support the channel by sharing that far and wide, because the more people that become aware of the channel and the kind of things we do, the more our reach will extend, and it'll help the channel to grow and help the show to reach more people, which is kind of the ultimate goal, to reach out more people and hopefully grow the channel and the books. And I appreciate you guys, everything doing help, all your help doing that. I hope everybody has a safe week. I hope you'll join us on Saturday again when the guys from over at Horror Chronicles will be joining us. It's going to be a good time. Those guys are a hoot and a half. Yeah, that's an Ozarks term right there, hoot and a half. But yeah. they're a lot of fun. And he says
you go
post to Josh's email. Hold on, I'm gonna have to go into my email to get Josh's email because I don't know it off the top of my head. All right, give me a second. Sorry about that.
Okay, we'll count 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7.
Well, I've got it now. It won't let me copy it. Come on, you stupid thing. Good Lord.
By the way, hi, Meg. It's good to see you. Oh, Patty, I never saw you here tonight. Hey, how's it going, Patty? I love the way I say that, like they can just answer immediately.
Okay. Dead Man, I just posted Josh's email in there. Get a hold of Josh at josh.jones@alltowermedia.com. Hopefully that you'll be able to get that all taken care of, and he'll get you that out as quick as he can. Again, thank you guys for joining us. It's been a great night. We had a great guest tonight. Hopefully next time we have him on the show, he can stay longer. An hour was just not enough to really get into some of the juiciness, and he's got some great stories to tell, and he's got a lot of them because the videos they've shot tell and speak for themselves. You guys definitely go over and check them out, especially the 168 hours. It's not 168 hours long, but I've watched it twice now, and I'm probably going to watch it again before the weekend because every time I watch it, I spot something I missed before.
Yeah, and what really, if you can watch it on the big screen, that's the way you want to watch it.
Mm-hmm, definitely. Patty says, "Hope you're feeling better, Naoma."
If I would quit having these relapses, it'd be great. They could just get things straight at the doctor's office. We'd be on top of everything.
I totally understand on that. Again, thank you folks for joining us. We appreciate you guys so much. You guys are the absolute best. We enjoy hanging out with you, and I look forward to doing it again on Saturday night. And it was a great show tonight, folks. Great questions, great comments from the gallery tonight. You guys are the best. I've said it many times. We don't have fans, we have friends, and it's always a pleasure hanging out with y'all. And thank you for sharing your time with us, and we look forward to doing it again. Good night, everybody.
Good night, chat family.
Thank you for joining us tonight on DAX Machina. If you ever have an encounter of your own that you wish to discuss, contact us at daroberts@daroberts.net. You can remain completely anonymous if you wish. Pull your covers up tight and keep a nightlight burning bright. Oh, and did you forget to lock your doors?